A big shout out goes to Ground News for sponsoring this video. Check them out at ground.news/droid. The link is in the description below.
Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
There is a saying that you may already know, and although not technically correct, goes along these lines. If you put a frog into a pot of boiling water, it will jump out. But if you put it into a pot of warm water and gradually heat it up, the frog will just sit there until it's cooked. Over the last 20 years or so, the process of digitising our lives is almost complete. This is a process of moving from the old analogue way of doing things to digital formats, which creates huge amounts of information about not only us as individuals, but as groups and even nations. This data can be moved, shared, copied, sold, or stolen by companies, governments, or other individuals. It will record and or control virtually everything you do in your normal day-to-day life in some way or another, be that in a very minor way or in a major way, and often without you knowing or even thinking about it. Now, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with digital data. It's allowed things to happen that would not otherwise have been possible. The internet, streaming services, social media, the democratization of knowledge, the transformation of industry, the military, travel, banking, healthcare, music, retail, and more recently with the use of machine learning and AI, it's just going to put these things on steroids. Digital equipment now surrounds us at home and at work. From the internet connection you're using now to the smart meters that monitor your gas and electric usage to the satellite TV and the smartphones and smartwatch you carry around with you on an almost 24/7 basis. With the increase in the Internet of Things in the house, like video doorbells, smart fridges, smart speakers, switches, heating controllers and lighting, the amount of information that's generated about you and the way you live would make even the best spy agencies of a couple of decades ago look inadequate by comparison. But the smartphone alone is one of the best ways of gathering data, which is far more personal than you may think, and we're addicted to them. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, selfies, phone calls, video calls, you name it, and we have a use for them. And all this creates a ton of data about us as individuals. Even when you're busy watching cat videos or messaging friends, it listens in the background for trigger words. And although Apple and Google say they don't record anything, some others may well. In 2016, it was revealed that an Israeli government-backed spyware app called Pegasus had been developed by the private Israeli company NSO Group. This, they say, is used to fight crime and terrorism, but caused uproar because it can take control of target iOS or Android phones and read text messages, listen to phone calls, collect passwords, track locations, and access the target device's microphone and camera, as well as information from apps. However, Pegasus isn't a single hacker's development. It's a commercial product and it's very expensive. For example, a license to cover a single target smartphone in 2016 for 1 year was about $500,000. So it's going to be used primarily by governments and the very rich against high-value targets such as terrorists and criminals. But it's also been used on politicians and government officials, journalists and activists, and it's reckoned that over 50,000 licenses have been issued so far. But if we just look at a normal, uninfected smartphone that is used by an everyday person, it can still track your location within a metre or so. It can see how active you are, how much you walk, and how fast. If you wear a smartwatch that links to your smartphone, and depending upon the model used, it can track your heart rate and any irregularities such as atrial fibrillation and sleep apnea, stress levels, temperature, blood oxygen levels, show when you sleep, for how long and how well. Researchers in Canada and China have developed methods using deep learning to detect blood pressure issues from selfies taken with a forward-facing camera by detecting changes in the tiny subsurface blood vessels on your face. This can be more than your doctor will find out during a routine checkup, though when your doctor checks you, the results are private, whereas when you use an app to track these for your own purposes, you have little to no idea where that data may end up now or in the future. This is concerning because in the US and in other countries where insurance-based health services exist, that depth of data captured over long periods could be used to base the type of health coverage available, pricing and claims payouts. There are strict guidelines about how this data should be handled, but as we know, there are data leaks and just downright ignoring of rules can happen when big money is involved. Nowadays, it seems that almost everyone has some form of agenda, whether they are right, centre or left-leaning. But how do you know what sort of bias news organisations have? Well, this is where Ground News comes in. Ground News is an app and website developed by former NASA engineer Harleen Kaur in 2018 and is now the world's largest news source, but with a unique feature. Ground News takes news articles from over 50,000 sources around the world and then pulls them together in one place. But it also shows who the sources are, their political leaning, who owns them, where they are based, and their factuality based on reporting practices. To give you an example, here's a report of the UK government looking to ban mobile phones in schools. On the right, you can see the coverage details, the number of sources, and how recent the updates were. Then the political bias of those sources, left, centre or right-leaning. Here they are mostly centre biased. Below is the factuality score, which is quite high at about 54%, and who owns the source. Here they are mostly media conglomerates. Just click on any of the sources to see the article, or you can look to the left of the page to skim the headlines of the articles to see how each source is framing the news, and go to the articles from there. You can also search for the subject of articles you are looking for, be that on current news events, people, politics, basically any type of topic, and build them into your following feed or just browse the news for what interests you in particular. To find out more and access data-driven information from around the world, go to ground.news/droid, the link is in the description below, and if you subscribe through my link, you can get 40% off unlimited access or try it for less than $1 for this month. Another area for data gathering is in your car, and with new cars becoming ever more connected, the range of tracking of your behaviour is expanded even more so. In the posh seaside resort of Bedaihe, China in 2022, Tesla cars were banned from the area for 2 months while the annual Chinese Communist Party retreat was ongoing. The CCP are well aware that the cameras on a Tesla are continuously recording data, which they fear could get back to the US. Teslas are the most connected cars, with data being sent back to Tesla on a whole range of things. Now this is done on almost every new production car sold and amounts to hundreds of petabytes of data per year that is meant to be anonymised. However, in courtroom documents for fatal car crashes in the US and Europe, it's been shown that this isn't always the case, as Tesla has defended itself with data showing how a car is being driven in days, weeks or months before the crash. If this was meant to be anonymous, as they claim, then they should not be able to link the data to the car or the driver. Like many new cars, Teslas have a black box, an EDR or event data recorder, to record speed, acceleration, brake use, steering input, automatic brake and stability controls for about 5 seconds before, during and after a crash. But Teslas also create what's called a gateway log file, which records the seatbelt, autopilot, cruise control settings and whether the driver's hands were on the steering wheel about 5 times every second. This is stored on an SD card in the car's media control unit and periodically uploaded to Tesla when it has a Wi-Fi connection. Because they also draw in data from the car's CAN bus system, it can also include the VIN or the vehicle identification number, although that data should be filtered out. Many new cars also include cameras to watch the driver and alert them if they appear to be losing concentration or falling asleep at the wheel. Again, this could be recorded. In April 2023, Reuters reported between 2019 and 2023, groups of Tesla workers had privately shared images and videos recorded by Tesla cars of accidents and from when the car was in Sentry mode, something which was said to be only available to the owner of a car via a USB stick. Videos and images were also captured as part of the ongoing AI deep learning for the autopilot system. Here, hundreds of people working first for an African subcontractor, then, when it was found not to be of high enough quality, the work was moved to the US, and they were tasked with manually labelling things that were recorded, like street signs, people, animals, other cars, etc., so the autopilot could better identify them in the future. In all, there were meant to be no identifying information to link the images to the car or driver, but there have been instances where very unique scenes, objects or landmarks have been captured that could place the car at a particular time and location. Now, so far we have spoken about the technology that you interact with on a daily basis that captures information about you, but retail and social media sites collect huge amounts of data, and they know exactly who you are because you tell them in the profile, and you also tell them your likes, dislikes, hobbies, music and biases in your posts, photos and videos. They also know who your friends are, where you live, where they live, how often you communicate with them, and exactly what you say. And all this is given completely freely by you to them. Even though you might not have said what your views on a particular subject might be, by tracking what you watch, who you friend, what you write, lots of extra information can be assumed and stored alongside it. Early on, Mark Zuckerberg realized that data would become incredibly valuable, but it wasn't until Sheryl Sandberg joined then Facebook and figured that the very large amounts of data known about every person on the platform could be used to create highly targeted and highly profitable advertising. Again, much of this is meant to be kept private, but the Cambridge Analytica scandal showed that data held on people's assumed political leanings could be used along with micro-targeting to influence voters in elections. So now your private data is being used by others to influence your voting habits. When applied to millions of people in whatever country, it can have a noticeable effect on the outcome, which can have a very real ramifications outside of the data centers of Facebook, and from what seem to be small, innocuous pieces of data given freely in exchange for connecting and chatting with your friends. So now anyone from any country with deep enough pockets can buy highly targeted adverts to try and sway people's opinions using their own data. The tail is well and truly wagging the dog. In 2016, in his book, The Industries of the Future, Alec Ross suggested that companies trade some 75,000 data points on each American consumer, which by now is probably a gross underestimate. It's almost a running joke now that you only need to enter in a search phrase about a product or service into almost any search engine, and from that moment you'll be seeing adverts popping up all over the place that are related to that search phrase. It just goes to show how far things have come in the last 20 odd years, and how many of us have just sat in the pot like the frog, slowly cooking so long as we get our free fix of Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Flickr, Snapchat, Reddit,